Good evening, everyone. This is I Poke Holes in Paper. Gonna be talking about one of the items that's very unique in my collection, a custom-built rifle here, as you saw in the thumbnail. Here she is in all her basic glory. So let me run down what makes a standard-looking bolt-action rifle kind of special in this instance. So let me start with the basics. This is a Remington 700 SPS. Very basic rifle that was manufactured, oh gosh, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, kind of at the end of the Freedom Group's ownership of Remington, back when everything was kind of, well, crap. Everything that Freedom Group touched turned to liquid poop, and Remington was unfortunately not immune to their horrible business practices and the total lack of QC. This rifle was purchased as a blem. I looked over it very carefully, and the only thing that was actually blemished is there's a single little spot of rust on the magazine floor plate spring within the internal box magazine on this particular rifle. So, what's the purpose behind this rifle? Well, I went through a phase, as many of us firearms owners did, in the, early to mid-aughts about scout rifles. And I was looking pretty heavily. I also own a Ruger Gunsight Scout. But ultimately, man, I just wanted something that shot 223, 5.56, and was just something that I could actually, use a stripper clip with. That's what you're seeing there. So let's just dive right into that, because that's the most unique part of this rifle. This rifle, if I can get it to focus, has a milled-in clip slot. This is just a standard Remington 700 receiver. There is plenty of room on most standard Remington 700s to actually have a clip slot inserted directly into the firearm. It requires the usage of an end mill. And one of the most important parts here is not just the shape of the actual clip slot that has to be that, kind of rectangular cutout, but you also have to have these scalloped bits kind of on the end there that create this sort of concave half cone that exists on either side. That facilitates the usage of a stripper clip. These are very specific stripper clips. I've only been able to find them at Creedmoor Sports, same folks who make like Creedmoor shooting jackets and things like that. So the intent behind this rifle was just to be sort of a fun kind of scouting, lightweight, practical rifle setup. But a lot of the parts ended up needing to be purchased through high power type competition shooting supply places. So places like Creedmoor, places that sort of service that. And I actually had this gunsmithing done. The clip slot, installation of a Williams rear sight, and a banded and hooded New England Custom Guns, or NECG, front sight that has been soldered on and pressed fit onto the barrel. The barrel's originally like a 24-inch thing. Chopped it down to 16.1 to be all legal beagle. I did not thread it, because at the time I had no interest in owning suppressors, and I wanted this to be as short and light as was humanly possible. In the future, if I get the gumption, I'll have another gunsmith desolder this, unscrew the mount, shift it back about a ½ inch, and then we'll actually thread the end, and whether or not I suppress it or not, at least I'll put an A2 bird cage on the end of it. So this is going to be kind of a free-form rambling video if you haven't figured it out already. I took it off just for demonstration purposes tonight because I have it on a different gun, but normally I do have a very basic red dot mounted here. Just a little burst fast fire 3, something that's nice, light, complements it, lets me get a red dot on there with just a standard little piece of Picatinny rail there. Ultimately, this is a great little shooter. I really like it. I've got a KRG bolt lift to help me actuate the bolt a little bit faster. This Remington 700 SPS stock is basically Tupperware with some rubber inserts stuck onto it. It flexes a lot, but again, this is not going to be a highly accurate target rifle. I'm not trying to go out and shoot important things, like competitions and whatnot with it. This is just a fun gun. Getting back to the gunsmithing, actually. The gunsmith who did this is by the name of Ken Beretta, and he owns his little gunsmithing shop out of Oakland, California, of all places. I don't know if he's still open, but if he is, Ken is more than capable of doing this to any standard Remington 700 action that has the amount of length required to do this. You will also note on the front of the receiver, because the clip needs to slit in a little bit forward, he does have to take an end mill as well and carve a little circular notch out of the front there to ensure that cartridges will actually feed correctly and not mash themselves into the front of the receiver. So let me show you why those scallops are actually important. Open this up, pull the bolt back. So when the clip is inserted, like with most Mauser rifles, the clip will go down and those scallops hold on to the clip itself and do not let it go any further into the action. And as you can see here, because they're rotated out forward, they also let the clip slot get kicked. So just like basically any other Mauser rifle, K98, etc., I can push this forward and it will automatically kick the clip out of the way for me. Super, super cool. Same thing here, just with a loaded clip, sit this in, and then you can insert rounds into the magazine. Don't feel like doing it right now, but just wanted to show you cartridges, and again, this just goes in and it feeds really nicely. Now, was this cutout absolutely necessary? No, but for a lot of people who are hand loading, if you want to have much longer projectiles or you want to have Wildcat cartridges of some sort that you can put into these things, that little thing is really nice. Also, it's just kind of a standard part of the service that he does on 308 versions of these. It's the same thing. You definitely need that cut because of the way the bolt dynamics work. There's less room for the cartridge overall in a 308. It absolutely needs that portion on the front done. Not that I have one, but you see it really commonly on old Remington 40X rifles that were used for like CMP style competition shooting and whatnot, probably back in the 70s or 80s. I'm not that old. I'm just, sometimes you got to go back to what the old stuff was in order to get something cool like this. I don't remember exactly what it cost me. The rifle was pretty cheap at the time. The gunsmithing cost, honestly, almost as much as the rifle did. It was, again, a very silly purchase that I did. But I just wanted something fun, and this is about as fun as a bolt action can get. 223-556 has inherently very minimal recoil. This, with these peep aperture sights and a nice long sight radius, this is a fairly accurate gun. I get somewhere between 2 and 4 MOA if I'm actually doing my part, which is more than acceptable for what this is. It's actually a little bit more accurate with a red dot. But, this isn't going to be a competition tack driver. This is just something that's really fun. How do I carry the ammunition? I have a reproduction USGI cartridge belt from, I believe it's kind of the World War I style, where you actually have the ability to carry 2 5-round clips. One is in an outer pocket, so you pull the back one out first. Then you can undo the... I'm not going to do it right now because it's really hard to do with one-handed. These are very stiff. Yeah, can't do that. But anyway, there's a second clip. Yeah, get out of my way. That exists in there, so you pop this other one off, and it holds it. So cartridge belt holds 100 rounds, which is more than enough for any bolt action out there, I'd say. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, if you want to build your own, there are dimension cuts and stuff like that out there for what these clip slots are. And actually, I've just seen them now on Pacific Tool and Gage's website, and I don't recall ever seeing them there when I was originally parting this thing out. They've got some later production Remington 700 receivers that they've cut those clip slots in. Now, they're not super inexpensive. I think they sell just the bare receiver and bolt is $700. But if you wanted to get a 308, rifle and put a custom barrel on it, thread it and everything, and you can absolutely have a sort of modern Mauser, Mosin, whatever you want to call it, style bolt action rifle that feeds from clips that uses commonly available cartridges here in the 21st century. So now it takes time. It takes a gunsmith that actually knows what they're doing to actually make this happen, but it is totally possible. So I hear and I see posts on Reddit and whatnot about like, oh man, I wish somebody made like a modern Mosin and whatnot rifle. Well, do a little digging, find a good gunsmith, pay them a bunch of money, and be patient. It's gonna take at least 6 months for any smith that's worth their salt to be able to get to you once you work your way through their hopper and do something like this. For those of you who are more of a DIY persuasion, there are other options that you can have. There are Mo Defina was a guy who also made a. It was a rear mounted piece of rail that simply had a clip slot already pre-milled into it, and it just bolted on top of the receiver. And then you'd have a more standard Williams sight that would be screwed into the side of the receiver on this side, and it would come up and kind of cantilever over and hang over that as well as it went in there. That was also something that was fairly popular, although I know for sure that Mo Defina is out of business based on some old forum posts, but maybe somebody out there's got a few of his clip slot bridges hanging around there. I think if you were sufficiently mechanically inclined, you could probably just get a piece of scope rail and mill that shape and stuff like that into it and have it overhang. I farted around with that once, but again, I don't have the correct tools to actually do that correctly, so when I was just doing it with hand files and whatnot, it was, I just decided it was better to have buy once, cry once, and just get this done right. So that is the tale of my little rifle here. It is purely a fun gun. It will always be just a fun gun, but man, I gotta tell you, there is nothing like going out into the woods and just throwing stripper clips into a rifle. It's like driving a manual car. It's just got that aesthetic. Are ARs better? Yes, infinitely. You know, when Jeff Cooper designed the Scout rifle, none of the modern things that we have existed today. So the entire concept is just an anachronism. But that doesn't mean it isn't fun, and it doesn't mean you can't pursue it. So that was the episode for today. Very free form, and I will talk to all y'all folks later.